Prynawn da, mae Hannah James ydw i, mae fi yw arweinydd y Gymraeg yn Ysgol Gyfun Siorci, a gyda fi prynawn mae Emily.
Emily John ydw i. Dwi'n dysgu yn Ysgol Gynradd Priogi am mlwyddyn 2. Rydyn ni wedi cael y siarter iaith wobr arian llynedd, a ni'n gobeithio i ennill y wobr aur blwyddyn nesaf. We've been asked to talk to you today really about how Welsh works within our schools, how we plan for Welsh, and in particular, how we have been collaborating as a cluster of schools to improve outcomes in Welsh across the board, really.
Sorry, ni'n cael problemau technolegol fan hyn, a ni ddim yn gallu symud y pwynt pwyr ymlaen. Dyma ni.
Yes, that was just my introduction bit. So, I have been very fortunate to have attended a funded opportunity with CSC, with Gianfranco Conti himself, and I feel like that training was very valuable. It was all about the theory behind EPI and the benefits that it is going to have on our learners moving forward. I also then followed this up with Matthias and Marina in CSC. And they sort of, we trialed it out, we tried new things, we put together a sequence of lessons, just to see really whether it would suit our school, whether we would see the benefits of it. And I've got to say, it really has been transformable, really. And it's just we're going to try now as we move forward and roll it out further across the school. We have used, let me just go to the next one. We've introduced the use of sentence builders across the school. So these then can be used to inform teachers' planning, teachers' lessons. And from these sentence builders then, each teacher then will be putting together really a sequence of games based on the Mars years approach and the EPI approach. So this is a sentence builder and is largely based on the children learning by chunking, as opposed to learning individual vocabulary. So it makes a lot more sense for them to learn it this way because it's a more natural way of doing it, really. So I've got an example here of how one of my colleagues, Alison, has been using EPI within the classroom. And I know that some of these resources, I'm sure she had from you, Matthias, in CSC as well. So she shared them with me just to show you how from one sentence builder, a sequence of lessons can be formed, and each of those lessons is linked to a different part of the Mars years approach, which is EPI. So in line with the new curriculum and in line with the new continuum and things, and the training I've been on with Matthias, we have learned that, and it should be obvious really, but sometimes it isn't, that we should really only be teaching children language that they are going to use and they are going to use in authentic context. So here's an example of our children have recently been to Llangrannog, and in the build up to Llangrannog, this is a series of lessons that they embarked on really with my colleague Alison. So this was the initial sentence builder inspired by the EPI approach. And then they went on then to introducing the vocab. We all have a splat game and a good game of splat then to reinforce that. The rock climbing is a suggested game under the EPI approach as well. I learned that on my course. So this is just one example of how they could build sentences together. Then from that then there was games of battleships as well. It's just really, it's not reinventing anything, but it's just doing things in a slightly different way. There was a translation activity. And there were lots of other things they did, but I think what was really useful was that all the activities that have stemmed from that sentence builder, we know are under the EPI approach, and it's about getting the children, just try and speak fluently. And like you said, authentically, really. So we did see when they went to Llangrannog, there were lots of children then that went equipped with lots of sentences and lots of sentence stems that they could use. And I know I didn't go personally. I was sad not to go. But I know that the staff did remark that when they went, they were using lots of these there as well. So it was showing that, the lessons planned were relevant to them. They were able to use the language. And yeah, they were all just sort of repeating and reinforcing the language consistently, I guess. Whereas I know in previous times, and Matthias, I know this is a favourite quote of yours, you know, that the sort of topic of Welsh would have been horse riding. And you always say then, well, you know, how many children have actually got a horse? How many children have been horse riding? You know, you do a lot of work on things that the children don't necessarily get to repeat and reinforce and use again. So yeah, that was just a little example really of the series of lessons that we could plan with the EPI approach. But in addition to this as well, as a cluster, we've enforced this daily Welsh planning. So whereas we've always done Help and Heddiw, and Help and Heddiw has been every day, when my school personally, when we did listening to learners, we realised then, okay, here are our gaps. How are we going to make sure that these gaps are planned for appropriately? So whereas we had our sort of staff overview, you know, we have our weekly planning as a staff, and Welsh does come into that, obviously. This is just really to make sure that the children are having the appropriate level of Help and Heddiw every day. Because I know, for example, I've been in schools where they've done weather and reception, year 1, year 2, and as much as, you know, as a teacher, if you were told, right, okay, you need to do the weather in Welsh, it's always my hun gymalog, and it's just reminding people that they can go back to the, you know, ydy hun gymalog. You know, what was the weather like yesterday? Roedd hun, your bydd hun, just making sure that all the sort of tenses are covered and that there's progression across the school. So every class produces one of these then. I give everybody one based on their listening to learners. And I've got to say, they have really made a difference, especially linked to the new continuum as well, which is much easier and much more accessible in my opinion. So in terms of training as well and leadership of Welsh, we do a staff audit at the beginning of every year. And from that staff audit then, we have a look at courses really that would be based on the competency of staff and see if they would like to go on them. And I've got to say the courses that they've attended through CSE have been brilliant, and there's been really good feedback. You know, there's been increased motivation and confidence. We've had CSE in as well to do twilight sessions with us around Help and Heddiw and games and different things. And, you know, it's all free, and it's all been really, really beneficial to our staff and in turn then our learners. And also then we've had involvement with youth. They've come in and worked with our through Cymraeg. We've performed in years like Eisteddfod, and also mentored youth as well. We've had a lot to do with really. So I think the main reason we were asked really to speak today was on our cluster collaboration and the work that we have done together. So that's why Hannah's here, I'm here, and it's not just us. There's how many schools in our cluster?
7.
7 schools. And we meet regularly in order to sort of make sure that everybody's on the same page really, and everybody's supported and happy with how they are leading Welsh in their schools. And as far as I'm aware, we are one of the only clusters at the moment that are doing that. So I think it's definitely helped us in terms of that, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it's important not to underestimate the role that your feeder primary schools play, because ultimately they are teaching the children the language needed for when they come up to comprehensive school. And I know, speaking to other heads of departments in other secondary schools, one of the main problems we have is a lack of consistency in the children coming up. A lot of that's, you know, to do with factors outside of our control, whether or not the Year 6 teachers are Welsh speaker or not, how confident teachers are speaking Welsh. So working very closely with the primary schools ensures that we do have that consistency coming through when the children come to Year 7.
And linking back to that daily Welsh, when we all met as a cluster, we sort of, I know you're going to touch on this later, Hannah, so I won't go into it too much. It was Hannah sort of informed us of where the gaps are in the children that are transitioning from Year 6 up to Year 7. And then we've almost sort of prioritised areas of the continuum. You know, I know it's all essential, it's all important. However, there are things that the comp have needed us to enforce and go over. So it makes sense really to do it that way as well. And then that informs our daily Welsh planning. But I know you'll come back to that in a second. So as a cluster, when we meet, we sort of have a look, we see if there's any events around for us to take part in. We see what other schools are doing in terms of Cymraeg Day and, you know, Welsh events essentially. But one thing that we have set up is a cwr Cynefin y Cwm, which is a cluster choir, and it consists of members of the crew Cymraeg from each feeder primary school, and also Hannah's crew Cymraeg from the Cwm. So to be fair, it's been really successful, hasn't it?
We're in demand.
Yeah, social calendars booked out for the year, I think. We're performing, you know, various Welsh songs. What did we start with? Party Ponty?
Started with Party Ponty.
And then we were asked to the Raft Festival. We were asked to do
Cynefin
Day, Eisteddfod. Yeah, and then that sort of escalated then. We sort of showcased in different events, and we've now got matching t-shirts, which is a bonus.
Yes.
It ties us all together.
We're a proper, fully functioning cluster choir.
Yeah, so I think, you know, it was highlighted as good practice really on our end, wasn't it? But also, in terms of going for a Siarter Iaith award and things, it really puts us all together, you know, it puts us together, and it ticks a lot of boxes in that respect as well. Not that it's all about ticking boxes, because we mainly do it for the enjoyment of the children, but it does also have benefits in that way as well, doesn't it?
And ultimately, we all want the same thing for the students in our care. We all want them to be competent and confident Welsh speakers. And, you know, this kind of cluster collaboration ensures that, you know, the children of all ages from the cluster primaries get to see the potential and what, you know, what life will be like in the comprehensive school. And they, you know, they forge friends, they make bonds, whilst getting to practice their Welsh.
And what I find really interesting is some of the children that were in my first cluster choir, they are now at the Cwm, and they are really good friends. They formed friendship groups with the children from the other schools who had an interest in languages, you know, who liked attending the Eisteddfod, who participated in all the events. So yeah, I think that really proud really of what we achieved.
Yes.
And like I said, it's not just us, you know, there's Lindsay and Tottenham, there's lots of people who contribute to that as well. You know, a two-man show.
No.
Another thing that we do is within the cluster, we do school-to-school visits. So we try as much as we possibly can to put opportunities in for transition and also for collaboration. So for one example is the crew Cymraeg came down from the comp to judge some Eisteddfod entries. You've been down for our coffee mornings and things. We've been up to US. And it just really, again, enforces those links. It gives the children a good experience. And also, you know, I think it's nice sometimes to go around to different schools, see how it's working there, and sort of pinch ideas for yourself as well.
Absolutely. Sharing best practice.
Yeah. So that's another thing that we've done. And to be fair, that's been successful as well.
Yeah.
And also we do a lot within the community. So we're very fortunate on Cymraeg to have a really successful high street. So, you know, we involve a lot of the businesses. If there's any excuse for us to go down and give out some leaflets or put up some posters, we're always there. You don't need to ask us. And I think, that's really important as well. Visiting the local community, promoting the Welsh language and Welsh heritage really as well. And
utilising the local community, because more often than not, there are a lot of Welsh speakers. You know, we are very fortunate in Cymraeg. There are a lot of Welsh speakers on the high street who do want to support their local schools. So utilising, you know, things with links with external stakeholders. So I'm going to take over for a little bit now, give Emily a break. You're welcome to jump back in at any point. So like Emily has alluded to, we are a very, very close cluster. And that's probably one of the most important things, you know, I think there is to note when it comes to cluster collaboration. You know, we don't rely on email. We've got a WhatsApp group, we've got a team. So we're able to communicate and sort things out very quickly. So when the language continuum was introduced by CSE, we had some training with Matthias, myself and all of the Welsh cluster leads were there. And as Emily's already said, you know, it was a very honest conversation about where we are, where we need to be. This is especially important post-pandemic, because what we tend to find is that, you know, the language patterns of the children now vary from school to school. So one of my key aims was to establish consistency so that we know that all of our cluster primaries are teaching what we call the non-negotiables, and I'll put those up in a moment. Basically, I think when you look at the continuum in its entirety, those are the kind of sentence patterns I would expect to see at A grade at GCSE. And coming in, it would be, and it would be amazing if all of our students came in knowing all of those sentence patterns. But what we tended to find that they were quite large gaps in the children's knowledge, and it was ensuring then that all students come into us with a set of sentence patterns, and we build upon those. So I'll put those up in a moment. And obviously, staff have got free rein to add in whatever additional sentence patterns they want. They don't have to stick to the non-negotiables. Depending again on confidence, staff can, teach whatever sentence patterns they want, as long as the students coming to us in September are incredibly confident on our non-negotiables and they are secure.
And I think that's important as well, because, we're still using the CSE schemes, we're still using, the EPI approach, and it's not that we're just teaching those non-negotiables, but they do inform the majority, really, if not all, of our daily Welsh as well, of our conversational Welsh. So, they are also learning, they're doing the Welsh across their curriculum and things. However, we need to know, like you said, that they are confident in those patterns moving up. So then we practice those daily too, alongside, the other work that we do.
So our non-negotiables, roughly, Kate, I would say grade at GCSE. So, we get linguistic consistency across the cluster. So these are our Deg di Drafod, our non-negotiable sentence patterns. Because there's a variety of tenses. We've got the present tense, past tense, short form verbs, emphatic sentences, patterns of possession. So there's a lot of language there. And if primary children can come up to us in a secure knowledge of these sentence patterns, then we can really hit the ground with them running in September and really build on their linguistic acquisition. Following on from this, yes, we need children who can speak familiar sentence patterns, but something that has become incredibly apparent since COVID are concerns about pronunciation and poor oracy skills, especially when children are reading unfamiliar texts. And then we kind of identified that perhaps, we don't really cover Welsh phonics at all, really, at primary or secondary level. And this is brand new, unfamiliar territory to us as second language Welsh teachers. So I went on some training for Trick or Click, and I was impressed with the outcomes. So we have been, or I rather, have been very bold and have spoken to senior leadership in the school, because oracy is something we've identified as a weakness in our children. And we have now had bespoke training for all of our Welsh teachers and also for all of our primary leads. And we are going to be launching, it's been labelled the Treorchy Project. And Year 7 from September will be having essentially Trick or Click training. We will be training them in phonics and monitoring their progress.
We're also starting down with us as well in Year 1 and Year 2, because that is originally what it's designed for, isn't it? But it's essentially, it's like reading, but in Welsh. I think it's fantastic. I think it's really clearly thought out. I think that, I can definitely see how it's going to work in primary. I can also see how it's going to work in secondary. And ultimately, we're giving the children the skills they need to be able to read in Welsh, because I think a bugbear of mine has always been that, we've given them Welsh books and they're thinking, oh, can I read this Welsh book? But obviously the phonological awareness isn't there. And, Trick or Click teaches those sounds that are needed, and the sounds are different in English and Welsh, so that when the children then are reading in their session, you're starting to blend with the Welsh sounds. It's taking it back to the very, very start. And essentially teaching them to read again.
Absolutely. And the vast majority of things that we ask our children to talk about is in some sort of response to a reading task. So if the children can't always access the reading task, then, we're off on the wrong footing straight off. And this is legacy planning. Obviously, as a comprehensive school, I have been asked, is this the right move? It is bold. It's a trial. We'll see how we get on. Literacy levels post-pandemic are very, very low, and teaching Welsh phonics will improve English phonics at the same time. But ultimately, the goal will be, and there are financial implications involved, but the long-term goal is that the primaries will take over the triple flick, and this will come before the language continuum. So in a few years' time, we will see the benefits of this.
Yeah, and I think as well, speaking from that, obviously, if we are starting it now, by the time then, as the cohorts go through, like you said, hopefully eventually there won't be a need for it. But yeah, I was really pleased with the training. I'd recommend that anybody goes on it. Like I said, as a foundation, I can't say foundation phase now, but as a progression step to a teacher, I can see how it's, like I said, very closely linked to English phonics. It's not going to be anything too challenging or too foreign for the children. And I think, I'm really hoping now we see the benefits of it next year.
Absolutely. I'm conscious of time, because we've spoken for nearly half an hour. I have got a little section. Do you want us to stop now, or do you want me to do a whistle stop tour of?
No, carry on. And if you, do a whistle stop on
Okay.
this, it'll be helpful, definitely.
Okay. So I'll just very quickly talk you through, some huge successes we've had as a school over the past year. I was appointed as head of Welsh in Old Money just over a year ago now. And I've said a couple of times, post-pandemic, and I do think that the pandemic had an incredibly negative effect on perceptions of the Welsh language. I think we'd made great strides pre-pandemic, but then, COVID hit, and then all of a sudden the focus is on literacy and numeracy skills, which, of course are important, but I think certain subject areas have got lost by the wayside along the way. So taking on the role, I was really keen to go on a massive charm offensive, a massive PR offensive. And how do we get, fellow members of staff, students, parents on board? The Welsh is important. Because it doesn't matter how good our schemes of work are, how engaging our lessons are. If the children don't see the value in Welsh, then, it's all a waste. So I have gone on a charm offensive and asked not only our students, fellow members of staff, governors, senior leadership, parents, they get regular emails from me. I'm sure they see my name and dread where I'm asking them. But it is important that we reframe the way that we view Welsh second language. So first of all, I've challenged staff engagement. So I'm just, thinking if there are any secondary leaders in the school in the meeting, and ultimately staff, teaching has changed. There's a lot of pressure in teaching at the moment, and the last thing they want are just lesson reviews and bilingualism reviews. So we've utilised the students. So, like the idea of the non-negotiables with the continuum, we've got 10 non-negotiables that all staff have to use. They're not allowed to use the English for those statements. And then we have student spies who go in on random days. We started off, the middle picture is the crew Cymraeg. They went into lessons, they observed their teachers, and then they fed back to me. And nothing is ever punitive. Everything is always celebratory. So I don't even look at the people who haven't had ticks. I focus on the people who have had ticks, and then they get a series of rewards. And the children are very astute. They said, our teachers don't use Dodo Funny because we are supposed to be no hands up. So it was interesting to take their feedback, and that informed future planning. And then we opened it up to the entirety of year 7, and they were absolutely loving life, going in, spying on their teachers. I made a bit of a joke of it. We're going to go and dob you into Mrs. James. It's just getting the fun back into learning and the fun back into Welsh. Then the final picture then is a bilingual review. So all of the students went around and they looked, has my teacher got a Welsh display board? Has my teacher got posters up in the target language, and so on? That informed then the new 10 non-negotiables, and that's a continuous cycle then. I will pick random days and send the children out observing their teachers. So it's not me. It's me in the background. I'm like the Wizard of Oz behind the green curtain. But, staff buy into it because it's been led by the children. These are some, my very infamous medals. that everyone wants to win, and then the children reward, they award them in a mini award ceremony, then the staff who they think have done well in certain spy challenges. We never ever pull staff up who haven't been using much Welsh. Creating competition, ideas, telling staff what they can take part in. We've launched our very own very first TCS staff Eisteddfod this year, and asked staff to compete in a competition, and the students were blown away. They ran the Eisteddfod, they planned it, they marked the entries, and it sends a very powerful message to children. A lot of my teachers want to take part, so Welsh must be important. And it is absolutely, and like I said, a lot of it is PR, and a charm offensive, but it works. So one of these is in every staff room throughout the school, and it changes from month to month. I just picked this one because it was bright and colourful. We highlight opportunities for staff to use Welsh, so whether it's Duolingo, Quiz Bob Dydd, celebrating Dydd Music Cymru, and so on. We are a Duolingo for school. I know lots of schools run Duolingo to learn, Spanish and French. We run it in addition to our Welsh lessons, and we have got our own staff Duolingo team as well. And then again, you can see, one of our members of staff here is in the top 9% of Welsh learners on Duolingo. We celebrate everything. So this member of staff has got, a 100-day streak. All of these members of staff would have a shout out in staff briefing. Quiz Bob Dydd, being a Welsh speaker is absolutely no benefit to you if you're playing Quiz Bob Dydd, because it is incredibly challenging. But you can see here, Donna Henderson is one of our food nutrition teachers. She's a non-Welsh speaker. She had full marks. Don't know if she did it, but she did it, and we celebrate that success. So once I've got the staff on board, especially important in the secondary sector, when you're trying to drive whole school initiatives, is pupil engagement, to explicitly teach them about the importance of Welsh. So when you get those questions, why have I got to learn Welsh? It's a dying language. You say, well, we've done this. And it tends to stop those questions. It knocks it on the head straight off. And then enrichment by the pupils for the pupils. So we literally, our headmistress loves the phrase, squeeze the pips. We squeeze the pips out of everything. For Shemai Day, we don't just do the doodles and, give out stickers. The students are in front of students leading assemblies. We invited parents and guardians in for coffee morning, and they had, sorry, I've stolen your sheet there for our coffee morning, and parents and guardians engaged, so they see the value and the importance. We went down to Treorchy, giving stickers out, saying Shemai, the length and breadth of Treorchy. Big businesses are very supportive. If you go in and speak to them, Greg's, Domino's, Specsavers, they were all willing to help us out on the day. Forging links with external stakeholders, like Emily said, working with Mentor Iaith, working with the Earth. Never underestimate, just because it's an Earth Jamboree, that your secondary school's pupils don't want to be there. And I have numerous complaints I didn't take the older students. They were very cross to me that I just opened it to the younger students. And it's that element of fun. Yeah. And and the more links you have with external stakeholders, like, some of our children were asked to volunteer in the Earth.
I would say the Earth, they come in with us lots of times as well, and they're very supportive, and most of the things are free as well, aren't they? Same with Mentor Iaith, they just think if there's an opportunity, or if there's something that you need, it's worth just messaging or emailing and asking, because they're bound to be able to do something for you.
And later on, my final slide, I'm nearly done now. In my final slide, I talk about unashamedly celebrating success and celebrating positivity, especially with the Welsh language. So we had a proud day, and, the children marched with me dressed as a daffodil, which I'll never live down, to celebrate Welsh and to celebrate that it is our language and it's unique to us. We got local celebrities involved, H from Steps, our local MP came along to support us. And I'm always pushing the children in front of people. Okay, so the first picture is the Cymraeg 2050 steering group. They came in to have a chat. Then you've got the presentation to governors. Then Jeremy Miles came in. So we constantly look for opportunities to get our children speaking to people about the importance of Welsh. This is my final slide. So curriculum development, I think everything, this kind of picture in the background encapsulates everything that's important when it comes to Welsh second language. So you think about the past of your children, so the links with the cluster, are incredibly important. Where are you now and where do you need them to be? You know, and this kind of positivity and charm offensive, you know, has been, you know, hugely successful this year. We've managed to go from bronze to silver to gold in under a year with the Welsh Language Charter, which physically wouldn't be possible without support from the children, from other members of staff, external shareholders. So it's proof that it does work. Positivity does work. So we have a whole cluster approach to linguistic outcomes, which is incredibly important. Language planning and development. You know, I think as a leader, especially, you need to be honest about where you are now and where you need to be, you know, and that robust self-evaluation. You know, we know that one of our weaknesses is oracy. So, you know, we've gone off piste slightly with trick or click, you know, and we'll evaluate that, you know, and take it forward. And then
almost gone back to move forward, isn't
yes,
it? I think, you know, it's no good sort of papering over the cracks, and I think that's true for us across the board, isn't it? You know, is the children deserve to be, you know, to have the support put in to get to where they need to be. So, you know, like trick or click is perfect now, isn't it?
And sometimes you need to take 2 steps forward to take 1 step forward. And then, you know, future planning. So we're constantly looking for links, you know, where can we get an in somewhere? So we are one of the only schools in Wales currently working with Cymraeg on future qualifications, you know, and how GCSEs or, you know, Welsh qualifications will look in the future. So all of the resources and work that we do now, future plans. So we're trying to future-proof what we're doing whilst, you know, meeting the needs of, you know, new qualification specifications, the new curriculum, you know, work with the CSC. You know, so we do look for links to collaborate. We've also got a collaboration with Darllen Co, who produce Welsh first language books. We've got, I think we're going to be one of the first second language schools in Wales, again, working with the primaries, creating a series of books for our students, because that, you know, that is also missing in Wales, I think, you know. Yes, publications have vastly improved over the years for Welsh second language, but this is an opportunity for us as the educators to have our say. And that's me. Diolch yn fawr. And always be unashamedly positive.